Okay, the sum function has an indefinite number of arguments, as does I'm going to introduce the product formula, which I can do equals product, open my parentheses, and then another thing, when you're entering in your function manually, you can see here it has the function, a little description, and it kind of tells you how to enter in your argument. So it says enter in number 1. It shows you how you're going to enter it. So I'll enter number 1, comma, and then you can see it highlights number 2, just kind of like the way the functions argument box did. Select that. It's just a different way to enter it. Separate my comma, and then select my last cell. And now it's finding the product of these numbers together. And that had the same type of argument that the sum function did. Now here we're going to get to something a little bit different. And I'll also show you how to insert functions in a different way. We can go to, actually we can also use the function library, which you can see it has different categories. Recently used functions, which that's pretty useful because more than likely if you've recently used them, you use them a lot. You can see financial functions such as probably be like the net present value or something, logical, text, date and time. They're all separated by different categories. Okay, so we're going to use a math and trig function, which is going to be the quotient formula. So I can click that, and then you can see that there's a list of all the different math and trig functions available, and you can see that they are abbreviated. If we don't know what they are, it's time consuming, but it's definitely worth doing. You can see that you can scroll over each function and it gives you a description of what it is, and you can even click on tell me more, and it'll take you it'll connect to the internet and tell you more about the functions. Alright, so we're looking to find the quotient. Select division, and I'm just going down until I see a function that looks like it would work, and there I see quotient, and it tells me the function returns the integer portion of a division. Alright, so let's go find it again, go down my list and select it, and there just the function's argument dialog box appears. Now you can see for this type of function it requires 2 arguments and only 2 arguments, the numerator and the denominator. So I can enter my numerator, number 1, and then my denominator, number 2, and click go, and it's going to find the quotient. So you can see the functions, the arguments box is dependent upon the function. Alright, the average function, again, once you get comfortable with it, you can enter them in manually. The average, with the average function you can select a range of cells, but remember not all functions you can. So the average of these 3 numbers is 11.667. Now let me show you what I'm talking about if I wanted to enter in the quotient formula. And also you can see when I start typing in, it'll automatically give me a list of functions that contain the letters that I've already entered. Okay, if I were to try to enter in a range of cells there for the quotient formula, I get an error. It says I've entered in too few arguments, but that's because it requires 2 arguments and I use a range of cells for my only argument. It's treating my range of cells as the numerator. So you can see we get an error there. Oops. Alright, we have the square root. Now the square root requires even different types of functions. Okay, so now let's go through the, we can use the insert function dialog box. Here's another way to access it. You can see this f of x symbol right next to the formula bar. We can click that and it's the same thing. It pulls it up. Alright, let's just type in, say we don't know the abbreviated or the acronym or the abbreviated the abbreviation for square root in Excel, so we just type in square root, and I assume Excel will find it for me. I'm going to click go, and there I see SQRT is recommended. So I click on SQRT, and you can see the function arguments dialog box appears, and this function requires only a single argument. Because when you're trying to find the square root of a number, you are trying to find the square root of a single number. You can't just pick a bunch of numbers and say find the square root of these numbers. You can say find the square root of the sum of these numbers, but you can't just say find the square root of these numbers, because you're not specifying what you want to do with all of those numbers, whether you want to add them up or multiply them or divide them. And that's why you can't just find the square root of a bunch of numbers. You have to pick a single number. Alright, so we can pick a single number for our argument. Okay, and that works. Let me again, you can see I could say find the square root of equals, and I can use a function as an argument, sum, and then I can find the sum of. So you can see I used a function, the sum function, as an argument for the square root function, and I can click OK. And that should have worked. Oh, it's because I hit the equal symbol. I don't need to hit equal. When you do a function as an argument, you've already opened up a formula with the equal symbol, so you don't have to. And it's good that I make these little mistakes. It's just out of habit. I hit the equal symbol when entering in a function. Okay, so what that did is my argument. Let me click on show formulas. Let me scroll over and show you what I did. Equals the square root, and then my argument is the sum of these numbers. So basically I'm saying I want to find the square root of 20 plus 10 plus 5. So I want to find the square root of 35. And the square root of 35 is 5.91608. Okay, we also have date and time functions. These don't require any arguments at all. If I hit equals today, that's the today function. I just open and close. They still require the parentheses to be open and closed, but no arguments need to be entered in. And when I hit enter, it's going to give me today's date. So you can see today's date is June 13th, 2013. If I hit the now function and I can close it, it'll tell me exactly what time and date it is. And if you want to, you can also explore with different date and time functions. Just go through here and hold your cursor over, and it will kind of tell you what they are. So there's date and time functions, and then we have logical functions, which have a fixed number of arguments. Now that's similar to the quotient formula. There's a fixed number of arguments. What I'm going to do is the if function equals, let me do this with the insert function dialog box. Okay, if, type if, and there we get if. Okay, my function argument dialog box. What this argument is going to do is it's going to run a test, a logical test. If, and you remember from our operators earlier, greater than, equal than. So let me do an example. I'll say if 20 is greater than, or if cell C9 is greater than cell C10. So if that's true, and then I'm telling this function, with the if function, I want my other argument, the value if true. So if the content within cell C9 is greater than the content within cell C10, I want my result to be anything I want. I can enter in a word if I want, bananas. Now anytime I enter in text, they need to be enclosed with quotations. If 20 or if cell C9 is not greater than, if that's false, if my argument cell C9 is greater than 9, remember how it resulted in false. If it's false, I want my result to be apples. Okay, 20 is greater than 10, so